What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. My name's Jeff. This is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around at the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, let's jump into our review. Today we're looking at the Glen Scotia 8-year-old Peated PX Finish. Stick around. So we're looking at a Glen Scotia today. This one is their 8-year-old Peated PX Finish. This one was released for the 2022 Campbeltown Malts Festival, and so far, it's been pretty well received. So I thought it would be a fun one to pick up and review for you guys. The name Peated PX Finish is pretty self-explanatory, but since we're nerds, we're going to go into a little bit more detail than that. This is made from heavily peated spirit that was distilled in 2013. It spent 7.5 years in first fill bourbon barrels, and then a final 12 months of maturation in PX hogsheads, and we had 24,000 bottles released. As I said, I have been hearing good things about this one, but I wasn't too sure about picking it up, and a lot of that is just because their previous Campbeltown Malts Festival releases that I have had didn't blow me away. Both the 14-year-old peated port finish and the 10-year-old Bordeaux didn't really do it for me. I did enjoy them when I popped them. I think I even reviewed one and I liked it. That was towards the top of the bottle. By the time I finished both, I wasn't really enjoying them, so that was part of it. Also, this is more expensive in my market specifically than those other releases, and it's younger. Finally, PX is not my favorite kind of sherry. I like it when it's well done, but it isn't always. Oftentimes it comes off a little bit too sweet. So this is more expensive than the previous releases. It's younger than the previous releases. I didn't love those previous releases, and it's not my favorite kind of sherry. So kind of a wonder I picked this up at all. Clearly, I'm very impressionable. A little bit of hype, and I'm right there. I'm obviously a hype slut, a trend chaser, a sheep, a follower. Such is the fickle nature of YouTube. That's what it's done to me. I mean, I barely recognize myself when I look in the mirror. But hey, it's cast strength. That's pretty cool. Cast strength is always a good way to entice me. Also, I've been having a pretty good time with my Victoriana bottle recently. I reviewed it last week. You can check it out up there. So while I have had my ups and downs with Glen Scotia over the years, lately I have been feeling pretty good about them. So I figured this one, yeah, we'll give it a shot. Also, anytime there's like a Campbeltown Malts release or a Fissile from Isla release that makes it to Taiwan, we rarely get those kinds of releases in my market. I do get kind of swept up in the excitement. But still, this was a risky buy for me, so let's find out if it's paid off. Let's jump into our review. And in the meantime, if you could kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. As I said, this one's cast strength at 56.5% ABV. It is non-chill filtered, and our color is natural, which is just music to my ears. Makes me want to sing. In fact, why not? I will sing. Just for you guys, just today, just because I feel like it. So here is a rendition of Whitney Houston's classic love ballad, I Will Always Love You, in A minor. So we have our beautiful natural color there. This is actually the first Glen Scotia that I've bought with the new label design, and I have to say I like it. I like the new range. The new range looks like this. I do think it's a step up from their old designs. This one specifically also looks good. I like the gray backdrop with some orange pop to it. So yeah, we'll give this 4 out of 5 for presentation. Unfortunately, they don't give us the non-chill filtered or the natural color here on the label. We have to look to the box for that. It should be here. On the back, we have some maturation details, some pretty specific ones, exactly what I shared with you earlier. 7.5 years, bourbon barrels, sherry hogsheads, all that stuff. So that's good info. We have some basic tasting notes. I just wish the specs themselves were on the label, but beyond that, everything's good. I did add a few drops of water, and it's still got some bite to it, so it's a bit sharp, but in a good way. Our nose is peat, caramel, honey, vanilla fudge, salt, sweet and sour sauce, some sharp spices, and a kind of like eucalyptus note, kind of like Vicks Vapor Rub, something like that. I get more of the first fill bourbon influence from the nose than I do the sherry influence. It's there, but it's more of a background player. Our palate has some nice bite to it. It's a very mouth-coating feel. We have earthy peat here and plenty of first fill bourbon notes. So we've got big honeys and vanillas and caramels and woody notes. There's also some chili heat, some ginger ale, some cola, some salt, and some tangerine. Interesting stuff. On the finish, we get more of that eucalyptus Vicks Vapor Rub type note. We get pepper, berries, strawberries. And we also get some charred wood varnish type notes that kind of remind me of the Victoriana, which is interesting. This is a medium to long finish. So this is really interesting whiskey. Once again, Glen Scotia put out something very unique. I would say the closest whiskey to this is in the Glen Scotia family, and that would be the Victoriana. Now, of course, this one is peated. It is quite different, but a lot of the flavors and a lot of the textures are a little bit Victoriana-esque. It's the wood varnish, it's the charred oak, it's the caramels, and just the overall density do kind of tie this into Victoriana. You can tell that the whiskeys are related. It's a similar vibe. However, this one is much sharper, and it is also slightly sweeter than Victoriana. So if you're sensitive to sweetness, Victoriana might suit you more. And that's not to say this whiskey is too sweet. It isn't, but it is a little bit sweet. And funnily enough, the culprit there is not the PX sherry cask. It's more the first fill bourbon notes. A lot of our honeys, vanillas, caramels are quite loud in this. And of course, we do have the PX influence in there. It's worked in, but it's more subtle. We have some subtle berries and red fruits, but they're more on the periphery. So really, the PX casks in here, which sometimes bother me, don't bother me at all. It's just a few kind of like subtle jammy notes that we get in the finish. I think they complement the whiskey nicely. It's a well-made and well-blended whiskey. I think the peat we've got in this is interesting because it's more of like this earthy mainland style peat. And mainland style peat is not going to be for everyone. Even I admit I prefer the coastal island style peat. And of course, Campbeltown is not an island, but it is very coastal. And we do get some salt in here. But I wouldn't describe this as a coastal whiskey in the same way I would an Isla whiskey or an island whiskey or even a Springbank, which is also Campbeltown. Also, we have some cola and ginger ale notes in here that are a little bit sweet, they're a little bit forward. Those won't be for everyone. And finally, there is a bit of bite, there is a bit of sharpness from the youth. I think it works, but be aware of it. I think our first fill bourbon maturation, that sherried hogshead finish, do round out a lot of those biting, youthful notes, but we can definitely tell there's some vibrant spirit behind it. And I'm sure a lot of you out there will kind of see that as like a lipstick on a pig type situation. I don't really agree. Once again, I think it's a well-blended whiskey. But I don't think this is going to have the same kind of broad appeal as the Victoriana, for example. I think this is more of a love it or hate it kind of whiskey. Even I've had a bit of a tough time figuring out where I land on it. I absolutely loved it when I first popped it. Then I've had sessions where it's not quite so good, then it's back again. So I've been kind of bouncing around on this one. Ultimately, though, after doing a few side-by-sides between this one and the Victoriana, I have come to the conclusion that I like the Victoriana just a little bit more, although it is very close. Listen, the Victoriana is not as loud or as sweet or as sharp as this one, but that's not what put it over the edge. I think at its core, I just prefer the flavor profile of the Victoriana. It's a calmer, rounded, more sophisticated whiskey. This one is more dominated by peat and these big, loud, forward flavors. Again, it's good blending. It's not a lipstick on a pig situation, but it is a younger whiskey. Also, it's got more active casks on top, which is not something I have a problem with, but I'll admit it's not like my favorite style of whiskey. Still, I'm sounding really harsh here. This is fantastic stuff. I'm still going to give this an 87. So I do like it a lot. 87 is arguably neither a love nor a hate, but it is a very strong like, and I'm recommending it. But I do think that this will divide some people. Obviously, I like it a lot. There's a lot to like in here, but you could also put forward some pretty fair, pretty justified criticisms. As far as I'm concerned, this is my favorite of the Campbeltown Malts special releases from Glen Scotia. To be fair, I've only tried 3, but yeah, I think this one is the best. I think you guys should check it out. The big takeaway from this whiskey is that it's imperfect, but it works, and it's loads of fun. Alright, so I imagine this will get different price tags in different markets. I know that the Taiwanese price tag is too high. I did pay for it. Overpay for it. And when I checked the UK price tag, it was considerably lower. So, it depends on where you are and how much you're paying for it, but I don't think this is worth more than the Victoriana, but if it's around the same price as the Victoriana in your market, or maybe even a little bit less, that would be perfect. Alright, that's it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to help support the channel, please consider becoming a patron. Otherwise, you can like, comment, and subscribe. That is always appreciated. And of course, I do want to hear from you. Have you tried our 8-year-old Peated PX cask finish? What are your thoughts on it? How does it compare to some of the previous releases? Let me know down below. Finally, in the comments, you can also let me know what you want to see me review next, and I'll keep it in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.